Let me preface this by saying up front that I like Merida, but I don't like her writers as much. If you've seen my The Moral of the Story video on Merida, you know that I don't like where the writers left the story. To summarize, since that was one of my first videos and it had a lot of audio editing issues, the ending of Brave appears to be on a high note where Merida has won and her mother is listening to her. But then there's that one line that erases it all. Queen Eleanor cancels the traditional competition and instead tells the three suitors to compete for Merida's heart and win it if they can. Or, to state it directly, the competition isn't over. The idea of forcing Merida into marriage with a man who's beneath her in every way isn't over. The terms of the contest is all that has changed. Watch out for Brave 2, The Bachelorette of Scotland. I hate that they couldn't just let the victory be a real victory, and that Merida didn't end the movie with an open door to marry who she wanted, or to not marry at all. Merida still has to pick from one of the same three men that she didn't like for this entire movie. What was the point of all that so-called progress and the way that Merida behaved if this was going to be the end result? And the part that bothers me the most, relationships where multiple people are going after one partner, a princess who comes with a kingdom no less, tend to get very competitive. It can easily become an issue where a competitive spirit wants to win the game, so they lie to and manipulate Merida, pretending to be who she wants them to be, so they can get her hand in marriage, and then treat her however they feel like treating her afterwards. After all, this is ancient times, and Merida becomes the property of her husband after they've wed. How is this so revolutionary and amazing to so many people? The entire story of Brave also misses the mark. Remember in Inception where they explained why they can't just whisper an idea into someone's sleeping mind? Because if you say to someone, don't think about pink elephants, all they can think about are pink elephants. Well, it feels like Pixar went at the script with the same problem, instead saying, don't think about romance. And so all they could come up with for their first, quote, independent princess is a story about how she's trying to run away from romance, as if there's no other options in the world for forming this plot. It's as if the Pixar writers couldn't imagine a world where a woman could do anything other than fixate around a man. Even all the talk of changing her mother or changing her destiny, it was really just a different way to say, I don't want to get married. I mean, Merida didn't want to change her gender, which would have made more sense actually, not for any transgendered type of reasons, but because boys were apparently able to do whatever they wanted, so being a girl at all was literally the problem with Merida's life. But Merida only wanted to change her mother's mind, and she only cared about doing that after the marriage tournament started. Sure, Merida was frustrated with all of the "a lady must" reprimands from Eleanor, but she put up with them and only offered mild teenage-style protest. Let's be real, Merida wasn't making enchanted tarts at age 5 because her mom wouldn't let her shoot arrows or wear pants. She was messing with magic to escape entrapment from a man. Really, let that sink in. Men are the ultimate cause of the conflict in this movie, because Merida and Eleanor had their long-term issues, but the marriage tournament is what kicked the events of the movie into high gear. And that turned Merida into the villain of her own film, as her own greed and unwillingness to be a dutiful daughter is what caused all of the damage in this movie. Granted, the greed was for her own freedom, and she is protesting a cultural norm that she disagrees with, but all the same, Merida is the one who creates the conflict in the film. The suitors are the reason that the conflict exists, but Merida's the one who's actually doing the deeds to make the conflict happen. You might try to blame the witch, but the witch appeared to be more scatterbrained and gave no hint of being purposefully malicious. Also, who sought the witch out and then used magic without fully understanding it? Merida didn't know the effects her actions would have, true, but when you take a fine-toothed comb to every character, she is the real villain of Brave. In fact, Merida is so obviously the villain that the writers had to force in the subplot about Mor'du just to give the viewers a more easily digestible antagonist so that Merida wouldn't be as obvious. And that's not to bash Merida as a character, because I actually really like her and her personality, but her story is just so poorly written. Really, how did a princess like Merida, who has such a fun and charming soul, not have a single female friend in her own kingdom to go talk to? We see Merida, her mother, the old witch, and the castle maid, and I can't recall any other women that speak in the movie. Where are all the other young girls or Merida's ladies in waiting? I mean, she should at least have a few male friends to go shooting with, right? I don't understand why Merida is so isolated from everyone else. Well, other than maybe the idea that if Merida had at least one friend to talk to, she wouldn't have turned her mom into a bear. Some people are cheering that Merida was the first princess to not need a guy and who didn't fall in love and who was so independent, and they are right to a degree. But with all of the mother-daughter issues within the world, Brave could have been a much different story. And I wish that the writers at Pixar could have given us Merida and a strong story that wasn't all about Pixar patting itself on the back as to how progressive they were being. You know, a story where the conflict is a pre-existing problem and not something that occurs and revolves around men and marriage. Mor'du could have been terrorizing the town and brought in the conflict. I would have adored a story where Merida wants to fight the bear with the men, but her mother won't allow it, so hoping to change her mind, Merida accidentally turns Eleanor into a bear in the process. Boom, Pixar! I did your job for you, made Merida into a more independent warrior with no marriage in sight, kept the mother-daughter issues real and relevant, and it literally took 10 seconds of thought. For goodness sakes, it's 2017 now. Hire more female writers and directors and let them do their job without getting in their way. Finally, I'll stick this here at the end to all the people who are now going to use the word feminist at me like it's some curse word or insult. It's just so ridiculous in so many ways. I don't know where you guys learned what the word feminist means, but all it really defines is someone who believes that men and women should have equal opportunities. It's not saying princesses need to be butch and manly. It's not saying no female should ever need or ask for help. It's certainly not saying that romance shouldn't be allowed in kids' films. Really, all I'm asking for is some reprieve from romance being the main plot of movies aimed at girls. Young boys get tons of role models in films who are never shown to fall in love, but the vast majority of little girls have it rubbed in their faces that the best they can do in life is fall in love with a cute guy. Seriously. We can't have a few more shows and movies for girls where we aren't beaten over the head with that singular concept. And the entire idea of, well, Disney princesses aren't role models is ludicrous. When all you see are the same stereotypes on women over and over again, and you're told from the time that you can understand words that romance is all a girl really wants, you don't think that has an effect on how you see the world and yourself? I want to see more teens and tweens in the media like Katara, and less 14-year-olds like Snow White. It's really that simple. But I will continue to talk about women in film when and how I see fit. If that bothers you, just click away, Meryl, click away. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to like, subscribe, and share this video. I've also got a lot of other videos on my channel that you are fully encouraged to go check out. Plus, you can find me on Facebook at Say Halo Goodbye, which is my gamer tag, or Twitter at _Fanily.